Hello everyone. This video will be part one of the interface knife build. I'm going to show you all about the Backspacer, how everything's machined, and I'm going to go through what it takes to make just this one part. This is the part of the knife that goes in the very back that spaces the two halves apart from each other. Just goes right back here. See that piece? Got all my tool paths reprogrammed for the new machine. The piece of stock that I'm using, I should be able to get 4 pieces out of, and just in 2 operations. It looks like on the simulation that everything will work. Went through this a couple times. Made sure it doesn't look like there's going to be any problems. So nothing left to do now but to go out to the shop and try it out. Alright, so here I've got my piece of stock that I just bandsaw cut out of another sheet of titanium. This stuff is really hard to cut with a bandsaw. I really should be ordering this to size so I don't have to do this whole process. But preparing the stock is an often overlooked but somewhat critical part of setting up for this type of machining. You want it to be as square and as flat as possible. There we go. This could get a little loud. Alright, so I got all the edges cleaned up, nice and smooth, no burrs on it. It's ready to go into the machine. One of the things I like to do before I put this in the machine is to put some chamfers on each of the corners so that I know when I put it in the machine, so that I have a reference surface, so that when I flip it over I know that that surface will go towards the back jaw of the vise, so I don't get it mixed up. So like that. There we go. Before I let the machine do anything, I gotta run a warm-up cycle to get the machine up to speed and up to temperature before we do any machining. So the one that I'm using is from Saunders Machine Works website, and they just made some modifications for it to work on this machine with the RPMs that it has. Gotta reference all the axes first. Alright, so it'll run that for a few minutes, get it warmed up, then we can start. First thing I'm going to do is actually take these vice jaws out. They're a little too tall for the parallels that I have. I'm going to be doing most things in the vice for now, because I know that works. I'll work on doing things in other ways with some pallets later on. But for now, everything will be pretty much in the vise. Gotta switch out the jaws to the shorter ones. This speed vise handle works pretty well. It'd be nice if these were a little easier to take out. You gotta use a Allen key every time. Alright, so those are back in. Just gonna put some parallels in. See what size. Material. I want this to stick up just a little bit. There we go, parallels aren't moving. So we'll start with the probing. Set to 0 for the part. I've got my probe set as tool 99. I think we'll switch to the inside camera so you can get a better idea of what's actually going on in here. Got this camera set up on a little articulating mount. It's similar to a thing that you would use for measuring. One of these guys have an indicator, but using this cheap one just to hold the camera. We'll see if it stays in place, if we get anything usable out of it. I'm a little worried the magnet might not be strong enough, but see what happens. So this part takes 6 tools. I got all of them loaded. Got a couple of straight ones that are pretty small, 1/8, 1/16. Got a larger chamfer mill, a smaller chamfer mill, and the threading tool, as well as our carbide drill. Here we go. This is going to go for about an hour and a half, so we'll come back when it's all done and flip it over. Alright, so we broke a tool already at 1/16 inch right after it plunged into the first pocket. I'll have to change that out and make an adjustment to the cam. See if I can get that to work without breaking anything. Got the new tool in there. See if it'll last.
This part of the video has no sound because my camera guy forgot to turn on the microphone. He's fired, obviously. So I'm just testing the threads to make sure that that worked out okay. Everything's fine. There's no more broken tools. Everything worked good.
Alright, this side's done. Let's take a look. Looks like all the tools survived. Not bad. Alright. So far these look really good. Got the tabs left in there. There's a fine line when it comes to tabs as to how much to leave. Don't want to leave too much where it's hard to get out, but you want to make sure you leave enough where it doesn't come out of the vise. Just got to cut these off, and then I can start the finishing. Just going to use this small cut-off wheel to cut off one side of the tabs. The other one will break off. Okay, just got that tab broken off. It's hot, but you can just push it out. The other tab's broken off. We'll get those later. So after the machining, there's a little bit of a burr in the middle left over. The outside's pretty smooth, but I'll still sand that, and we've got what's left of the tab on both ends. So I'll put this in my super special fixture, which is basically just a metal plate. There we go. Got one side set up for doing this edge, and one side set up for the other to do the inside. Like that. That way I can hold it straight. Alright, so I need to make a fixture to hold this so that I can do the engraving on the top side. What I'm thinking is some kind of just a bar that I can clamp into the vise where it will sit exactly flat and bolt on using the threads that are already there, the backspacer, to hold it upright, and I can do all the engraving on the top. Could even do 2 or more, however many I want. Just depends on how big I make this piece. So let's go do that. Fingers crossed. Here's the engraving. Looks like it might have be a little bit deep. It's got a burr on it. I'll take that off. And then we'll go back fill it. There's that. Just gotta clean it off. And we can backfill it. This is just some black enamel. Just gotta let that dry, and I'll sand off the excess after. Alright, so we're back after this has dried. There's a couple of ways that you can take off the excess. You can sand it off, or you can use a little bit of acetone to take off the excess. Just got to be careful you don't wipe it out of the engraving. So I think I'm just going to sand this one off because there's not much there. Alright, so just sanded it off real quick on that granite surface with the 320 grit. It's still a little dusty, just gotta clean that off. Just a little isopropyl alcohol. And there it is. That looks gorgeous. All the machining turned out really good. I'm sure that has a lot to do with the flood coolant. I didn't have that on the last machine I was working with. What makes this a floating backspacer is the fact that it has these raised sections, and then the rest of the backspacer is not flush to those. So that looks like it's floating inside the handle. This works with just one screw, and what holds this side in is these two little nubs that stick up and lock into the handle scales. You'll see that when I go to the final assembly on this thing. Some of the things you don't normally see, this is pretty well hidden when the knife is all together. So all the pocketing, all the cutouts. makes this piece pretty light. And it's too bad it's kind of hidden when it's in the knife, but you know, I know it's there. So the only thing I've noticed that I'm not perfectly happy with is the surface finish in here. It's got a little bit of chatter, I guess, if you can see that. So it's not perfectly smooth like I'd want it to be. So I'll have to see what I can do to fix that. Usually I just come down straight in with the 1/8 inch end mill and try to sort of ream that out, but apparently that's not working exactly how I want it. So I'll have to make some adjustments there and see if I can get that surface to look like a reamed hole. It should be perfectly shiny. So in the meantime, I can just sand it smooth. So that's it. There is the Backspacer. Alright, so there is the Backspacer. It is finished. Looking beautiful. Engraving looks fantastic. The backfill worked perfectly. All the finishes look really nice. This is probably one of the best ones I've done. So I'm really happy with that. Next up, pocket clip. So stay tuned for that video, and I'll see you on the next one.